obviously, you've talked a little bit about Ohio, right?
Yeah.
And obviously they're my winner. The interesting thing about this is 𝗕𝘂𝘀𝗀𝗀𝗀 comes over from spending 1 year at Minnesota, and he was actually at Ohio the previous year before that.
Yeah, I was about to say the previous year he returned. And what's funny too is he's not on, but I was gonna make this joke. 𝗕𝘂𝘀𝗶𝘲𝘀𝗀𝗏 does return to the MAC.
Yeah, he's at Miami.
Yeah, he returns to the MAC. Not Toledo like Hayden thought, but
Well, that's why I think Miami also is gonna have that sneaky start is because of
𝗕𝘂𝘀𝗀𝗀𝗀 and his I guess comfortability with the MAC already.
Yeah, too bad for Sawyer Robertson being the guy, right? We all thought 𝗕𝘂𝘀𝗀 was actually going to be pretty good, and he wasn't.
Yeah, he got kind of hosed over, but I digress.
Yeah, so 𝗕𝘂𝘀𝘀𝗀𝗀𝗀, if you guys remember at Ohio, this is when Curtis Work was still there. 178 attempts, 811 yards, 7 touchdowns. I think he's going to be a big factor for them as well. But, nothing can go on without being said about Parker Navarro. He hasn't had the career that people think he should have had. Man, it seems like all these great quarterbacks come from UCFs too over the last couple of years. Because you had... Damn, we can even go back and say probably the one that started it all was, oh my God, what's the dude's name that broke his leg and then went to Florida State? Milton, something Milton. Oh my God, why am I drawing a blank?
McKenzie Milton.
And then Mikey Keene went to Fresno, and then Dillon Gabriel, we can't forget, went to Oklahoma and Oregon. And this is another dude that came from Central Florida, Parker Navarro.
John Rice Plumlee.
Oh, yeah.
I was waiting for you to say his name and you didn't. I was like, I can't let that slip, dog. I can't let that slip.
Another guy that converted to wide receiver. It's not fair, man. They're taking away our heroes. He just couldn't stay healthy. Why would you move him to receiver? He can't even stay healthy. That leg is... Real. What is up with all the leg injuries that happen for them dudes at Central Florida? McKenzie Milton and then him. Yo, you remember when McKenzie Milton was on a Heisman tear?
Yes.
I will never forget. Those are the good old days.
He was on a Heisman tear. He was on
UCF was...
I'll have to remember. I don't remember what year that draft class was, but he was on top of being one of the top quarterbacks in his respective draft class. And I want to go back and see who the guys were in said draft class that he would have That's gotta be a special we do. QB crossroads. What's going on with UCF quarterbacks' legs?
Yeah, I know McKenzie. He's at which is crazy to say his name is McKenzie, but he's a quarterbacks coach at UCF now.
Yeah.
So yeah, let's go back. I think it was
take me back.
2018 season.
So that would have been Josh Allen.
Yo, check this out. This is his first 4 games. Played UConn, 346 yards and 5 touchdowns, another 50 on the ground. Jeez. Then he played FAU, 306 yards, 3 touchdowns, 3 on the ground and 81 yards. Played Pitt, 4 touchdowns, 328 yards, 51 on the ground and 2 touchdowns. Yo, this is a legendary run. Holy hell. So he played 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 games. He played 10 games, had 25 touchdowns passing, 6 interceptions, and another 9 on the ground with 307 yards rushing. Yo, McKenzie was on a legendary tear. He's from Hawaii too. Wait, what?
We need to make an all ECG all Hawaiian team.
Wait a second. Is Mikey Keene from Hawaii?
I didn't realize McKenzie Milton was from Hawaii.
I forgot. Oh no. Okay. So McKenzie Milton was Mikey Keene was from Chandler, Arizona. Oh, that makes sense.
Might as well be Hawaii.
Well, you know the meme with him and Dillon Gabriel, where he's throwing up the hand signs.
Yeah.
That makes sense on why they were so close. Okay.
Okay. Yeah.
Not to get off into a McKenzie Milton rant, everybody. it all comes full circle because Parker Navarro came from there as well.
There's a reason we got on this tangent. Hold on.
Yeah, okay, so he didn't have the season that everybody thought he was going to have in the passing, but yeah, people don't realize Parker ran for 1,000 yards and 18 touchdowns. Mm-hmm. So if he could put it all together, it's going to be one of the most deadly combinations in college this year. I can't wait to see him throw the rock. There was an important wide receiver that came from this school. I believe that was in this draft. I forget his name. It was a white kid. Chase Hendricks, 471 yards and 1 touchdown last year. So he's coming back. Rodney Harris, 289 yards, 0 touchdowns. So that's their wide receiving core. And then Mason Williams is probably going to get some more burn as a tight end, 211 yards and 2 touchdowns. So if they can offset some of that rushing, which I think 𝗕𝘂𝘀𝗶𝗲𝘀𝗀 will help with that, offset some of that rushing with the passing game, they should be pretty legit. But they got transfers all over the board. Not a lot. We're not talking about Colorado 40 transfers, but they got a lot of depth that's going to be able to come in and help them out. 10-3 in the conference last year. I'm sorry, 71 in the conference last year. 10-3 overall, and tied for first in their conference. So give me the Ohio Bobcats to come through, win the MAC this year, and start smacking people in the face.
Yeah, I mean, maybe this is a little bit of copium, but once again, I do be having Toledo as my runner-up, and a good chunk of it I want to kind of get talked about. Before we talk about the whole team, I kind of want to talk about their quarterback, Tucker Gleason.
Yeah,
that's kind of where his whole thing is going to be. Kind of to look at his 2024. We'll just go over like his 2024 season highlights. 2,800 yards, 24 touchdowns, 8 interceptions, 60.5% completion. Added 364 yards on the ground, 7 rushing touchdowns on top of that 24, and was second in the MAC for touchdown passes and total offense, and was 4th in passing efficiency. So I feel like with, whoops, I have a white screen up on the second monitor to like just give me some brightness for as a quick like help for this show. Hopefully it'll be fixed by next, but
help.
Yeah, help me. But we kind of look at all that stuff. He's a top returning quarterback in the MAC. And we look at, again last year at some key games, 6 overtime classic in that game above Sports Bowl against Pittsburgh, 336 yards, 2 touchdowns, 34 rushing yards with a rushing touchdown. You've got your comeback win against Eastern Michigan. I don't know if you really want to call it an upset, but upset against Mississippi State.
Oh, that's definitely an upset. If you go, yeah. And he had a really good game, 23 for 28, 285 yards, 3 touchdowns.
3 touchdowns and 4 rushings. Yep.
Yeah.
Or 4D rushing. Yeah.
40 rushing yards. Yep.
Yeah. So,
cool runnings.
Cool runnings. But, you look at the what you're getting in return, or with, Tucker returning, and you're looking at the dual threat quarterback that he is of, Toledo's kind of used to that with Daquan Finn. So you're kind of plugging in, or not plugging in, but you were able to kind of mold that scheme fit for Tucker. And now he's returning again, coming off of a really great season.
Yep.
Comes from a family of athletes, which, I'm not giving that as much of a merit, but like that's something to mention. Like, dude's just surrounded by it all the time. And then you look at, you look at Toledo in general wide receiver room, Jourdwan, I think that's how you say it, Newton, Vanderboss, both posted all MAC seasons. They're returning.
Not to be confused with Jerzon.
Yeah, that's what I was about to say. And I was like, that's not it. Hold on. But you've got 9 starters returning. Tucker, we mentioned. The 2 wide receivers we mentioned. Cornerback Avery Smith. multiple experienced transfers. You look at mainly running back and O-line. So you booster up that offensive line and you give, Tucker a pretty experienced running back to hand off the ball to help alleviate pressure off of him. And then Vince Cares, their defensive coordinator, leads a defense that's been top 3 in the MAC for in fewest yards per play for 5 straight seasons. We've looked at the talent that he's produced in the NFL, Quinyon Mitchell being one of them.
Mm-hmm.
Part of that secondary, they finished top 25 all around in 2023. It's potential that he could do it again. Granted, now some of those guys like Avery Smith, they're in the league right now, but they were still a part of that team, and it was still Cares that was coaching them. So you are adding, there's just a lot of experience, both player-wise and coach-wise, and they've got good notability on top of all of it too.
Right.
We've got non-conference games, Kentucky. That would be interesting to see. Washington State. They've got 3 home MAC matchups at the Glass Bowl, which is their stadium. They're going to host one of, I would say, we talked about them earlier.
We got to go to one of them Toledo games at night, though. They seem kind of litty.
They seem pretty fun, yeah. Yeah, for sure. But one of the teams that you had mentioned outside of Bowling Green, which we'll even say honorable mention, Miami of Ohio.
Yep.
Toledo hosts them, and that's later at the season. So, home field advantage later at the season. That might be one of those night games. Who knows?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, Toledo's going to be... I hate to leave them out. I just think one of these guys has got to take a back seat. But if they end up winning, then I don't disagree with that. They've been... I want to say over the last 10 years in the MAC, they've been the premier program. I mean, we talked about 𝗕𝘂𝘀𝗶𝗲𝘀𝗀 Finn. Where y'all think he came from? He came from here, and he was lighting people up for years. Don's got Toledo. Khalid's got...
I think everybody else, yeah.
Ohio. Yeah, it was just kind of the reverse pretty much.
Mm-hmm.
Jason's got Ohio. And so our winner for the MAC collectively for ECG is... the Ohio Bobcats.
I feel like that's reasonably fair.
The best jerseys in the MAC, by the way. When they wear those matte green helmets.
Yeah.
I like them. Super nice feel, too.
Yeah.